Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conversation. I'm very happy and honored to have another conversation with you guys today. Our today artist has a keen observation of nature and trying to bring the joy of nature indoor. I'm very pleased to introduce our today artist, Joyce Byrnes. Joyce, welcome to our conversation. Joyce, can you hear us?
Hi, Farrin. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Welcome to our conversation, Joyce.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's start. Please tell us about yourself, who you are, what you're doing, how you became an artist.
Sure. Well, I think my story may be similar to a lot of other artists in that, I was that kid that was always drawing and painting. As long as I remember, I loved to draw. But art was not the career I initially went into, but it's something I'm able to do now. So I think a lot of people have a similar experience in their artistic journey. But for me, it started when I was a kid, and I attended art classes after school. And that's where I learned how to work with pastels and acrylic paints. And then when I was in college, I took oil painting classes. So I tried to keep up with my art in college, even though it wasn't what I was majoring in. I graduated with a degree in mathematics. And yeah, it's a little different. And then
we use mathematics in our art, no matter what.
You use it everywhere, right? It's very important. But yeah, it was good because I ended up working for many years in the benefit industry. So I worked at different consulting firms, and I worked in the human resource department of a big company, and I helped manage their pension plan and their retirement plans. So I enjoyed it. It was really great. And I tried to keep up with my art, but it was really busy because I was working long hours and commuting in and out of Manhattan. So there wasn't a lot of time for that.
Yeah. But
and then,
when you start as a professionally, or as an you took art seriously in your life, when that started?
Right. Well, I guess, when I started a family, I stopped working to stay home with my kids. And, but I think I had even less time then. But so I guess it was when my youngest was school age that I was able to get back into the art. And what I really wanted to do was work with pastels. And so that's what I've been able to do. And it's been a bit of a while now because my youngest is now graduating from college. So I've been at it for a while, but it's a lot of fun. So I enjoy it.
But is this what you do full time now?
I also am teaching. Yeah, I teach a couple days a week at a pastel class at a local community learning center. So I'm really enjoying that right now too. Yeah.
So is that what you most identify with, pastel? So is that the work your work or your artwork most identify with?
Well, I just always loved working with pastels. I think they're just so much fun to work with, and there's so much you can do with them. I love how immediate they are, that you can just work with them right on the paper. You mix your colors right on the paper. You don't have to combine paints on a palette and use solvents and do all that. And it's really versatile in that it's considered both a drawing and a painting medium, depending on how you use them.
Okay.
And
so is that that was what you did from beginning, or you try? Is it how has your work changed over the time overall?
Well, I did learn pastels and acrylics and oils, but since pastels were my favorite, that's what I've been focusing on, the last 15, 16 years or so.
You try other things as well, right? But you concentrate on this.
Yeah. Now I do the pastels, and I think my art has changed. My pastel has changed a lot over these years, just because as you work with the medium more and you get more comfortable with it and you learn how to use it more, things do evolve, in your work.
And then I see your table in your background,
Yeah, isn't it gorgeous? I love the pastel. I know. That's what I say. It's like when you open up a box of Crayola crayons, it's just like so great to see all the colors. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's right, but I love it when I see it. All right, so let's see some of your work. You said you hope to transform the joy you found outdoor into an experience that can be saved and shared. This is what you said in your statement in your website. I found it.
Right.
So how you transform the joy? Would you walk us through your work?
Sure. Well, I guess I'm kind of an outdoorsy type person, so I love a lot of outdoor activities in all the seasons. A lot of hiking and little skiing, and I think the best part of that is I get to be in these beautiful places. So I really enjoy being out and appreciating the nature. And I always take lots of photos everywhere I am, and then back in the studio, I can work on paintings based on my photographs and based on my memories. But I don't want to just create a literal depiction of a place. I also want to try to create an impression of what it was like to be there. So if I paint, a peaceful scene, I would hope that the viewer could feel that peaceful feeling or calmness when they view the painting. So I want to capture a moment or capture an image, but I also want to capture a feeling. And in that way, I hope to share my experience with the viewer.
So this is how you paint. You take picture or you memorize, or is there any time you paint on a location as well?
I've done a little plein air painting, which is a lot of fun. I want to do more of that. Most of the time I was in a class where we'd all go out to a location together. But I'd like to do more because it is really fun. You do learn a lot painting on
Yeah,
location.
of course.
But usually I work from my reference photos, and sometimes it's several photos that I combine to create a composition that I like. Or this picture actually, I took this photo and I really liked the composition of this photo, so I really didn't change much from my reference photo. But sometimes I have to add elements or take things out and adjust it the way I want to.
Yeah. I mean, before we see some of your work, I have one of your you send me this video, which I would love to share. It just shows the process you work. And after that, probably we can talk about the process and
Sure.
let's see if my internet works and can see this. Very nice to see how it come to life, everything together from a sketch. But would you mind walk us through the process? So from taking picture or you seeing something and you really think, okay, this is it, I have to paint it till the end, and say how long it takes and how you start.
Sure. Well, yeah, I do take lots of photos, and it's funny because sometimes while I go through my photos, I'm not inspired to paint it at the moment. And then years later, I'll come across it and be like, "Ooh, I really want to paint this right now." So whatever, hits me and speaks to me at the moment, I'll paint. And like the little video I showed, I took pictures while I was working on that pastel to see the progression. And the way I like to work is I like to try to cover as much as the paper as I can and build the piece up together. So I would try to work from large shapes to small shapes, and I work from dark to light, so that the little light highlights would be the final touches at the end of the painting. Mm-hmm. And I compare it to like developing a photograph in solution, where everything is blurry and grainy, and then as it develops, it gets finer and sharper and into focus. And that's how I like to build the painting as well. So yeah, so that's most of the process, and depending on the size, it might take longer than others. Because if you're doing a large painting, you can use a large paintbrush and cover a lot of canvas. But my pastel sticks are the same size whether I'm working on a tiny piece of paper or a large piece of paper. So it does take longer to cover the paper when you have the large.
How long it takes? Like for example, this one we just see. How long it takes? To paint this one?
This one's not too large. It's only 12 by 16. And I try to think how many times I was at the easel. And if I'm at the easel, I might spend 2, maybe 3 hours. And this piece I made, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times at the easel. So
So, I mean, it's a good thing about pastel. You don't have to wait to dry, right? And then put the
It's
layer.
amazing. Yeah, you can work back into it. You know, you could put something aside and work on it again later. And it's as if you just did it the day before. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really great.
And then after you finish, are you varnish or, seal your work?
They do have a fixative that you can spray, and it would help the so much dust won't come off the paper. And I used to do that years ago, and I kind of fell out of the habit of doing it. I found that sometimes it would darken all your colors, and especially if you're working on toned paper, like a dark toned paper, some of your lights would really fade. It won't be as bright. So I tend not to fix them anymore, but I always frame them under glass. They need to be protected under glass. Yeah.
So, what subject from nature you actually painted? I mean, I saw in your website. Let me just show your website. Um, very. Let me just. Sorry, I have to open your website. Oh, I apologize. So I saw you have different categories in your website: landscape, cityscape, architecture. So, how you choose this subject? I know you said like you see something and you want to paint it, and these are all nature, in particular like architecture.
Right.
How you choose your subject? Is this okay? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess in the nature scenes, I'm really attracted to trying to capture the light in the scenes and how the light affects everything in the landscape, the colors, and especially the effects in sun, in the skies and in the water. So though if I see something like that, I'll try to take photos and try to paint something like that. And the architecture, I do like painting buildings and bridges. And again, sometimes it's the strong contrast of the sun on the structures that I'm attracted to, like in that photo or that pastel, or just like in the bridge pastel. The sky was so beautiful that night that I loved having that comparison of the sky with the bridge in front of it. So I don't know, different aspects attract me sometimes to the scene. I like the way the hill in that picture, you can only see the tops of the barn. So just was an interesting composition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to show a few of your architecture here in your website. Although I have a selection, which is you send me here. In PowerPoint. Okay, so let's just walk through some of your work from different categories if we can. Like this is, I think, these are your pure landscape work, right? As we see it here.
Yeah. Yeah, and this one was a combination of a few photos because it was a beautiful evening. I was upstate New York, and it was beautiful sunset on the farmland, but there wasn't a lot of clouds in the sky, and I really wanted this painting to be about the sky. So I had other photos of clouds, and I kind of incorporated the clouds into it. So I kind of had to put this piece together the way I wanted it.
All right. So what do you mean by combination of few pictures? I mean, it's not from the same location. Like, for example, the barn is from one location, the sky from another,
In this one, yeah, the sky was from a different photo, different location. So I kind of adjusted the colors to go with the colors of the sky, but I like the shapes of the clouds, so I added them into this pastel.
It just goes together, everything so well. And
yeah, you never know.
That's the good thing, right? You shouldn't know. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great. And yeah, so very, very joyful, as you said, like bringing joy indoor. You really did that, especially in like this winter. This is like really
right. a little sunshine would be nice. Yeah.
love to have something like colorful in my home. And this is like based on, you said based on travel, right? You travel a lot, so you paint.
A little bit, yeah. This was up in Acadia National Park in Maine, and with this piece, I tried to experiment with not using the local color because it was summertime and everything was very green. The hills in the background and the trees and all the grasses were very green, and I said, well, let me try to change it up and use different colors. And I also was experimenting using an underpainting with this piece. So I think the next slide shows my underpainting. And this is I used watercolor in this one. I usually use pastel in my underpainting, but you can use watercolor as well. So I tried to use some different colors, made the grasses more yellow and warm. And then I could apply pastel over this, and I try to let some of the watercolor underpainting show through. So it was kind of a fun experiment, and I like the way I changed it up. Like the way it
Very
came out.
interesting. I never
Yeah.
tried that. It's very interesting. It says, beside nature, Joyce, do you have any other biggest influence, and who who was your inspiration for this type of work you do?
Um, well, I guess my love of trying to capture the light in the landscapes. I've always loved the Impressionist painters, because beautiful landscapes by Monet and Cezanne are very inspiring.
Yeah.
They were the masters at portraying light. Um, but I guess I'd have to say, if I had to name an artist who had an influence on me, I think I'd have to say it was Edward Hopper. And I first learned about Edward Hopper when I was in college, and one of my teachers in my oil painting classes thought my paintings reminded him of Hopper's work. And I thought it was a little weird, but then years later, I was in a studio art class after work. I was able to take a class, and the instructor told me the same thing. So, and at first I really didn't even know what they were talking about, because I was thinking of Hopper's very urban scenes, his cityscapes, and his interior paintings with very solitary figures. And I wasn't doing that type of work. But once I learned more about Hopper's landscapes, especially his paintings of Maine and Cape Cod, then I could see a bit of a resemblance, because I enjoyed those types of subject matter as well. So I kind of understood it a little bit better. And then when I moved to Rockland County, I found out that I lived very close to where Hopper was born and raised, in Nyack, New York.
Oh,
And
okay.
his family home was turned into an art center and a museum after he passed away. So I became a member of the museum, and I participated in some of their member art shows. And then I went back to work when my kids were a little older, and I got a job at the museum, and I handled their operations and membership program. So here I was sitting in Hopper's house, and I'm looking out the window at these beautiful views of the Hudson River that he grew up with and that inspired his art. And the more I learned about him and learned about his art, I think he had an influence in my art, especially in the pieces where I have architecture, because Hopper, is famous for his depictions of light and shadow in his paintings, and he loved sunlight on the side of a house, and those things I'm attracted to as well. So I feel there's a definite influence from Hopper, from all that.
Yeah, it's so touching, someone telling you, okay, this is it, and then you end up to work in his house.
Never imagined I'd spend that much time in his home. No. So.
That's awesome. Look at this, I love the way you capture this light and shade too in your work, which is, they are right to say that your work resembles his work, because he's, as you said, also light and shade and all those one of he's famous for.
Yeah, this one is a scene from Ireland, and the skies were spectacular in Ireland, because it would be bright and sunny, but in the distance you could see the dark clouds, and you knew it was raining over there, but it was beautiful where you were. So the skies were so expressive. I really, really loved it.
Yeah, I never been there. Yesterday we were watching a show about Ireland. I said, my husband, is it always cloudy and rainy there? So it looked like it is, right?
Yeah, well, it rained a lot while we were there, but we had a lot of beautiful days too.
All right, so I guess these are some of your example of architecture too, right? Which is you use. But
right.
Architecture and landscape, you also have seascape and seascape, some sense from seascape in your work. So I think you have some. Okay, this is also underpainting. Before we go to
this is an example of a pastel underpainting I did for this painting, and what I did is I did a value study in purples as an underpainting, and it's just you apply your first layer of pastel, and then you brush it with a little bit of water or rubbing alcohol, and you create like a light wash, and then it looks like this. And then it dries really quickly, and you can apply pastel on top of it. So I really liked using these purples as an underpainting, because some of it shows through in the dune grasses and in the sand. And it also was a nice study to get my values correct before I went further with the painting. So this was a nice way to do this one.
Something like this, how long it takes to create something like this with their underpainting?
Not long. And this one was also a small one because it was little studies on, not long, because like I said, once you put the pastel down, you just wash it quickly with the alcohol, it dries immediately and you can just keep going. So yeah, it really doesn't take long.
About pastel because you don't need to really wait to dry or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. You mean, it's usually a dry medium, but you can use it wet like that as well. Yeah.
So I think this is some example of your seascape work.
Right. Yeah, I do like a lot of boats and seascapes. We have a sailboat and we go sailing, so I do, see a lot of these scenes. So I'm always inspired to paint some of these pictures. And this was out in a harbor out in Block Island, and there was many more boats in the harbor, but I decided to take a lot of them out. So I didn't want to obstruct the view of that sky. I wanted you to see the horizon in the distance. So make some changes like that.
Yeah, you capture it really beautifully. This wave in particular is really one of my favorite. I think you captured it really nice.
In this one, I have a figure in this painting, and I don't typically include figures in my paintings. I usually just focus on the landscape, but I just loved how he was waiting for this wave to boogie board to shore. So I figured I had to include him because it was that whole anticipation that you can get from this picture. So I included him.
Yeah, it makes your actually the whole sense complete.
Yeah.
So what you're doing during this pandemic and then you are being home, is that kind of opportunity for you too, like as an artist, to create more work?
I did have more time to paint during this past year. Yeah, a lot of other appointments were canceled. So yeah, yeah, it was an opportunity to paint more, and I was getting out and doing a lot of hiking, so got some more reference photos. So in that way, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, like for some, although it was like last year and to date, I mean this year, at least so far, it was wrapped in with all those things, but also create some opportunity for us to sit back and enjoy our work and create some more artwork, right?
Sure. Yeah.
As you say you're taking so many pictures, you just go through and see, okay, get inspiration and start.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So these are also, I think we just saw your architecture work, and so how you choose your architecture work? Your architecture work also from your photo references, or?
Yeah, they're also from my photos. Yeah, this is just a little cottage that is on Block Island, and we've vacationed in Block Island a lot of times, and I've passed this place a lot, and it's very nondescript. It's just a tiny little cottage, but this evening it was just spectacular with the sun on it. So something like that is what would attract me to the scene and encourage me to paint it.
Yeah, sometimes it just might change. It makes it like click, and then you want to paint.
Another totally different picture. Yeah.
It happened. I think this is something happened for every artist. Just the smallest thing change, and then you think, okay, this is it. This is what I have to do. And sometimes you see something, you say, I have to paint this.
Right.
And I have a huge reference of picture, or waiting for me to find a time. And
right. Yeah, that's usually the hard part, right?
The hard part, finding time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any kind of dream project you're thinking you're gonna do in future?
No, nothing in particular. Yeah, no, I think I just continue doing what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it so much. Yeah.
Something you think you're gonna continue doing, creating using landscape, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Joyce has a very interesting collection of her work in her website, so which we didn't get chance to go through everything. So you can always check her website and see more of her work. Joyce, do you have any last word for us today?
Well, I just really want to thank NAWA for the opportunity to speak with you today. I really appreciate it. And just being a member of NAWA is such a great opportunity. It's really nice to be in a community of artists and learn from other artists. And even during this pandemic, they're offering a lot of nice programs for the members. So I really appreciate it. So just wanted to thank them very much.
Thank you. I'm sure Nava also appreciate you and your time spending with us today in this conversation. So as usual, if you have any question for us, you can email us at this email you see at nova.org. And if you want to see Joyce's beautiful work, you can visit her website and there is contact page. You can reach out to her. And if you have any question or anything about her work and her word and her artwork, I'm sure she would be more than happy to share and answer. Thank you very much, Joyce, and thank you everyone for watching our show. See you next month with another